Listen, sometimes people are just a little too anti something, and that's not a good thing. I think obviously the PlayStation 5 is really enduring one of the best launches of all times. Unfortunately, there was a pandemic, there's shortages of components, and it's causing there to be less PS5s out in the wild than what Sony would like. And who knows how many they could actually have had if they wouldn't have had all these issues. With that being said, some industry analysts are obviously very doom and gloom still on Sony, but this shouldn't really upset PlayStation fans because they've been that way for years, right? Like, we've heard how Sony was going to go bankrupt in 2 years, and this was 8 years ago. We've heard all of these different things, all these different stories, and none of them actually came to fruition. That's the funny part, right? So the interesting thing is that when somebody makes some kind of weird prediction in the analyst, they're an analyst or whatever, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. That doesn't mean, a lot of times these people like to be part of the conversation, and that's where some of these weird and outlandish kind of quotes and stuff come from. When it comes to this case, I feel like maybe PlayStation fans are taking it a little too serious or a little too personal. I personally wouldn't take this very personal at all. Obviously, PlayStation isn't going anywhere, and Sony is doing so much right. Like, even when Microsoft has good things happening, it seems like Sony is very quick to kind of come in and do something to take all of that away from the competition or what have you. So they've done a really good job of doing that over the years, and they continue to kind of do that kind of stuff. And it looks like for a while now we'll see some different things depending on what happens. But for me personally, I love the fact that Sony is so competitive and that they're putting out great games and stuff like that. So really, this is the type of stuff that happens, and then you see these type of weird announcements and things like that. This one in particular, Michael Pachter, and you're just like, what the hell is this guy smoking? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that I would kind of question and just say, he's a little bit wrong with this stuff. But I want to get into what he said, and I also want to get into why, obviously, I think he's completely wrong with what he said. What's up, everybody? I'm Crap Gamer, and of course this is Crap Gamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice some changes around here, or probably not because nobody watches, but hey, please leave us a like if you do watch. I definitely want to say thank you to those that spend some of your free time with me watching my videos. It means a lot, and I'm very thankful for the few that do. You guys are amazing people. So anyway, on the Fraud Alert podcast, prominent industry analyst Michael Pachter has claimed that PlayStation brand will cease to exist in the next 10 years. Cease to exist. Oddly enough, in 10 years, the PlayStation 6 will definitely be out and probably in the lead. So that's the funny part with all these kind of weird predictions. Anyway, in the past few months, we've witnessed both the console giants going all out on surpassing each other. Last year, Microsoft acquired Bethesda, and Sony followed up with the acquisition of Bluepoint, Housemarque Games. But then, that itself seemed quite a lot, but we were quite excited to see what else they had to offer. However, things picked up even more earlier in this year as Microsoft announced this massive acquisition of Activision, and while everyone was processing this, yet another surprise came in the form of Sony's acquisition of Bungie. The competition between Sony and Microsoft seems to be more fierce than ever, and fans are wondering if one brand will end up having the last laugh. Michael Pachter actually predicted that PlayStation will not exist in 10 years. According to popular industry analyst at Wedbush Securities, Michael Pachter said things might turn out to be quite ugly for PlayStation in the coming years. When asked about how Sony will compete against the Xbox Game Pass during a podcast, he states that the PlayStation is quote-unquote doomed and will pretty much cease to exist in the upcoming 10 years. He further adds that this is due to the fact that Sony isn't just a couple of years behind, but Xbox has gained an insurmountable lead instead. Pachter has been quite outspoken with his opinions in the past and made some bold claims. A couple of years ago, he went on to say that Nintendo's Switch doesn't make sense and the Lite version should be pushed more by Nintendo. As we all know, the Switch ended up recently becoming Nintendo's best-selling home console ever, although it still remains behind the DS. Oddly enough, the main Switch with the dock is still by far the leading seller for the Switch brand. you also have to keep in mind that Michael Pachter has said other kind of ridiculous things in the past as well. I can remember when I think I might have been first doing videos or become aware of Michael Pachter before the VGAs one year. He said that he would, which is the Video Game Awards, and this was years ago, mind you, probably 8-10 years ago. But he said he would eat his hat if The Walking Dead, the Telltale Games game, won Game of the Year, and then Telltale Games game actually won Game of the Year at the VGAs that year. So yeah, taking anything he says in particular is something everybody should do with a grain of salt. Will PlayStation actually cease to exist in the next 10 years? In all probability, no. Microsoft might have done a really good thing with the Game Pass formula, but we have yet to see any first-party exclusives from Microsoft that rivals the likes of what Sony's been releasing in the past few years. The likes of Horizon, God of War, and Spider-Man have a big enough fan base to keep the ecosystem popular enough to give Microsoft a fight, unless, of course, Sony loses its Midas touch. There's one of the thing here is that people are kind of, understanding what's going on, right? And listen, I didn't listen to the pod. I don't want to throw them a listen or anything like that. But to be honest with you, Sony has been so far ahead of the game, it's not even funny. People have been saying that Sony's way isn't going to be the way that things are done anymore, etc., etc. We keep hearing this stuff, and Sony comes out there and just does things, and they end up just completely kind of destroying every single generation, right? Like, honestly, this is what we keep seeing happening. So every time people are like, and trust me, I think Xbox is doing fine. They're going to do fine for what they need to do, right? But to me, the funny part behind all of this is when we see Microsoft and we see Sony do these things, people think because Microsoft does one way or Sony does one way that the other has to do that exact way, and that couldn't be further from the truth, to be honest with you guys. To be quite real about it, it's silly to think that both those companies have to do things the right way or one way or the other. Listen, Nintendo does things the most backwards ass way I've ever seen, and they're having the most success that they've ever had. So when I look at this and I think, oh, well, people, listen, not everybody wants to go out there and, rent their games. People like to own their games. Not everybody wants to go stream games or whatever. Sony has a lot of what Microsoft doesn't have, and not only that, but you also have to keep in mind that Microsoft the Xbox isn't a huge brand worldwide the way that PlayStation is. It's just not. And so people, they kind of jump out of there and just go, oh, well, this is the way that things are. This is just factual, blah, blah, blah. I just don't really think that's a smart thing to do. And, when we see Michael Pachter say some things like this, you just kind of scratch your head or whatever, right? Because I heard 5-6 years ago that Microsoft was setting up for the future, blah, blah, blah. And they are, and I can agree that they are, but it's not like that future is going to destroy Sony. Like, unless Sony stops making great games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War and all these amazing games that people look forward to, there's nothing for them to worry about. Sony's made a lot of the right moves, not really a lot of the wrong moves, and I think this Pachter guy is definitely jumping the gun. There's room in the industry for both. Imagine some analyst going, Burger King's going to pack it in because McDonald's is so far ahead of the game. They'll be doomed in 10 years. I mean, I'm sure that there's some things like that have happened, or Wendy's or whoever, but the truth of the matter is there's room for more than one company. There's room for more than one way. That's what I would kind of get out there and let everybody know. With that being said, I will link this. You guys can check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think Sony is doomed? Let me know. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up. Thanks for watching.